Hey everyone, it's Donna. How are you? It's Friday morning, 10 o'clock. And this week I wanted to talk more about emotions, a little bit of a continuation from last week. And this time though, relating to a very specific situation that happened for me where I got super triggered. And hi Gabriel. So I'm going to relate it to a specific situation, but before I do that, I also just want to mention that I was having a conversation with a dear friend about this last weekend, and if you're watching, you know who you are. And we were talking about emotions and managing emotions, and I was talking about this 4N process that I mentioned last week, and he studies a lot of Eckhart Tolle's work. And I believe it's pronounced Tolle. I know a lot of people say Tolle, but Eckhart is German, and in German you would pronounce Tolle. So anyway, side topic. And what Eckhart Tolle teaches is that we are not our thoughts, okay? And thoughts can create emotions, which then create behaviors. And often those behaviors are destructive, and it's not behaviors we want in our life, but it all leads back to the thoughts, which are not us. Our thoughts, we are not our thoughts, is what he teaches. So how do you identify what the thoughts are that are causing the emotions? And he teaches mindfulness and meditation, and during that you first of all can just let your thoughts keep going. You notice them, but you don't attach to them. So that's one philosophy, and I totally agree with that. Sometimes though, I think we don't consciously know what the thoughts are that are causing these severe emotional reactions, and sometimes it's a subconscious thought. So yeah, and sometimes we can't even identify the conscious thought that's causing the emotion either. But definitely if it's a subconscious thought, it's very difficult to know what that thought is that's causing this emotional reaction. So that's why quieting the mind and meditating is so effective, to be able to just start to notice these things and what these thoughts are, and even notice the emotions. And it's also a way to tap into the subconscious mind as well. And because these subconscious beliefs, they're ingrained in us, and they could be from past lives. They're definitely from our childhood. So we develop these beliefs, they're thoughts, but they're in us subconsciously. They might be causing the emotions, they are. And we don't even know really what they are. So we got to tap into that. And that's one way to do it, is through meditation and quieting the mind, getting out of the mind, and getting into the body. And another great tool to do that is this 4N process that Anathea's taught me, that she came up with, and it's the 4N. So it's notice, name, nurture, and need. What are my core needs? And so I want to take you through that at a very high level with this specific situation that came up for me this week. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the situation. I am live on Facebook after all, broadcasting this, so I'm going to save the real specifics for our women's support group, which is called Leaders of Love. So if you're female and you'd like to join that, look for Leaders of Love. I'll post a link later, or Anathea could post the link for us. And I'm going to be talking about this as well on Wednesday, because we do every Wednesday, we do a live women's circle, and we have different topics, and it's really a great way to connect on a deeper level and get deeper and more intimate about these topics. And so I'll be going into more detail as well on Wednesday. So check that out as well, and not to exclude men, I'm sorry, but we just had to focus somewhere, and that's what we decided to focus on, is women's leadership and women's support. So that's Leaders of Love. So back to this situation that I experienced, is still fresh in my body. I was triggered by a person who kind of lashed out at me, and I was so triggered. I got so angry, and I basically just immediately put on some music to make myself feel better, because music is kind of my go-to. I reached out to a friend, shared this song with the friend. He shared another one back. I was still very angry, starting to feel a little bit better. I decided I'm going to go for a run around the block. And so I did that. I'm swearing out loud, the poor neighbors. By the time I got home and I put on another song, I was pretty much over it. And I was so proud of myself that I did this sort of constructive behavior to deal with that emotion, and I was able to let it go so quickly. And I wasn't going to the fridge to eat. I wasn't taking a shot of vodka. I wasn't doing any destructive behavior. I managed this emotion very constructively with good behaviors, and I was over it. I was ready to go on with my day. And so then this morning, when I started thinking about what I want to talk about today at this live, I started thinking about that situation, and I realized that I was numbing that emotion. So, we think of numbing with, addictive behaviors like drinking and drugs and eating, especially. Right now, a lot of people are turning to the fridge because of the emotions they're feeling with all this anxiety of the pandemic. And I was like, I totally numbed that emotion, even though it was maybe constructive behavior. It doesn't matter. I wasn't sitting with the emotion. I wasn't thinking about what was causing it and what was the thought behind that emotion or the subconscious belief. And it's just going to probably happen again because I never really processed that emotion. So I tried to relive it this morning. I went through the 4N process. I quieted my mind. I tried to get out of my head and really drop into my body and relive that emotion. And the 4N process really, really works. So here it was. I know at first you notice, and the notice was a no-brainer. Okay, I noticed it right away. I was very mad. And what I didn't notice at the time was where in my body it was happening, because I was so in my head, right? I was so in my head, and I was blaming this person, and I was angry, and I was calling him an ass, right? I was so angry. So I was in my head. I was projecting. I wasn't focusing on me. I was focusing on the other person in the situation. And so I did notice, but not in my body. But I tried to relive it again, like I said, this morning, and it was definitely in my throat a little bit because I was angry. I wanted to speak out. I wanted to lash out and stand up for myself and say, don't talk to me that way, and that kind of stuff. But that's not where we're trying to go with this. So it doesn't work, actually, because I've done that with this person in the past many times, and it does not work. They get defensive. I get angrier. It just explodes. It doesn't work. So this time I was looking internally of where I was feeling it, and it was in my throat, definitely, because I wanted to yell out. It was in my solar plexus, and then the second one would be to name it, and for sure it was anger. There was no doubt in my mind it was anger. But really, so the point of this whole exercise is to really just be with that emotion and not try to push it away. I had pushed it away, even though I was all proud of myself, thinking I wasn't being destructive. I was still pushing it away. So then you get on to the nurturing it and just saying, it's okay that you're angry, and being with that emotion. And then the very last step is, well, what are my core needs? And I'm not going into this in detail. I can't on this live, but just trying to give you an idea of how this works, because it really is very effective. And using this process plus meditation and quieting my mind has really helped me through difficult situations that I have transformed through in the past 6-7 years. So it's a beautiful process. So the very last step is the need, and what is that core need? And for me, I came up with, and instead of focusing on the other person, it's on my need, and my need is I need conversations and people around me that are kind and gentle and loving, and that's just what I need in my life, right? So rather than doing what I was doing when the trigger happened and saying, oh, how could he do that, and damn that, and just projecting on him, like, and then reaching out to my friends saying, can you believe that, and I'm so mad, and how can he be such a jerk, and instead of just focusing what I need. And when you go through this process enough times with that same emotion, with other situations that trigger it, then eventually you don't get triggered by the situation anymore. And with this particular person, I'm much, much better off than I was 2 years ago, because 2 years ago I would lash out and I would meet the energy, and it got nowhere. It got nowhere at all. So anyway, I wanted to just share that situation and how, it's so easy for us to numb these emotions, but meditating and a tool like the 4Ns really help you to drop into your body and really just be with that emotion and nurture it, and then identify your core needs and know that, and not be afraid of them, not be afraid of the emotions. So one thing about anger, though, I just want to mention is that anger, what Anthea has taught me, is that anger is a defense sort of mechanism. We're putting up a shield. And so when we feel anger, it's always about something deeper. It's about another emotion that we've suppressed, that we're not experiencing, not living, not being with, not nurturing. And I went further in this thought process about what is that emotion behind the anger I was feeling, and it typically usually comes back to fear. And I didn't feel afraid, though. I was feeling angry, but the anger was just the mask. It really was fear that I was feeling, and the fear comes from the thought of this, not the conscious thought, the subconscious thought in this case for me, of not feeling good enough. And this has come up a lot before, and when we think consciously of our thoughts, I feel good enough. Of course I'm good enough. If I ask myself that question, I feel good enough, right? There's no doubt. But that's my mind talking. That's my conscious mind, my conscious thoughts. Inside me somewhere, there's still this subconscious belief that maybe I'm not good enough on certain levels, right? And that comes from our upbringing, and I've looked back on how that's played its part. It can come from past lives. It's in our cellular memory and our DNA, and that gets passed down generation by generation. So it's interesting. And in summary, the 4N process just led me to the anger, and then repeating that process all over with this new belief of that I'm not good enough. Then you learn how to nurture that, and what are the core needs around that as well. So really powerful process. Looks like we have a lot of people joining us. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So if you have any comments, go ahead and post them. What do you do when you're triggered? Do you go to destructive behaviors? Do you go to non-destructive behaviors, but still numbing the emotion, perhaps, like I was doing this week? If you are interested in going deeper on this topic and you want to engage and let's discuss it, come to the Leaders of Love, and we're going to be talking about this very topic on Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock in the live circle. But you have to be in the group to join the live circle. So thanks, everyone, for listening, and please post your comments and like my live, please. It just gets it out a little bit more on Facebook. Love it when you do that. Appreciate it. Namaste. Have a beautiful day.